It's never going to replace the fitter. Let's build a bag that makes sense for you.
All the advertising is about the new head that gives you distance and forgiveness and distance and forgiveness. How important is the shaft? I think Bo Jackson is the greatest athlete of all time.
He's playing these squirted putts because when he forward presses, there's no loft on the putter.
And then there was just this, and it was like, there it is. This is Between Two Bags with Nick Sherburne from Club Champion, and we're going to talk about golf between two bags. Thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
I would love for you to just tell us about yourself.
Yeah. I come from a smaller farm community in Central Illinois, and we still have a farm there, and I go there most weekends. So I was more of the sports we played were baseball and football. That was me. And it was a bigger guy. It made the most sense, probably. They always wanted me to wrestle too, but I hated that. I did have my best friend. His dad we only had a 9-hole country club in town and then a 9-hole clover patch, I called it, outside of town. And so that summer, his dad was like, "Hey, you guys want to go play?" I'm like, "I don't know, whatever."
Did you have clubs then?
No, I didn't have anything.
Okay.
But I'm like, "Okay, I'll go out with you guys." What about it's summer? And I played and I hit the ball. I thought I hit the ball pretty good, but his dad was like, "Hey, dude, you're kind of like decent at this. Like first time out, you're hitting it and whatever." And baseball and other things. So it just became fun. Like it bit me. And then I think I went and got my parents found something at a garage sale, like a set, and we started there. And then I played my freshman year in high school because I saw that I was at least progressing, even if it wasn't maybe progressing at a Chicago level, but it was progressing. And so you know how it is. It bit me.
What part of your game did you work on first? Because there's so many things going on in this bag. Where did you start?
My goal was just more to get it going straight. Ignorance got me there, right? Because I didn't have the means to have a golf coach. I didn't have a means to do all that. So to me, all I knew was, oh, wait, I got to get this ball from point A to point B in a hole. And so how am I going to do that? So you start figuring out how to do that. That's how it was. So now it's like when I raise my kids, I'm like, I'm going to get you lessons. Don't worry. But right now, I just want you focused on hitting the ball and getting it in the hole. And you figure out how to do it. And, however you need to do it. I was a young kid, like any young kid, that my parents didn't golf. They weren't really at the time, able to afford a lot of the golf things. So I had to kind of find my own way in this sport, but I was addicted like all of us. And, I was willing to do anything and everything to shoot lower scores. I had to kind of figure that out. And so that's when I met this guy, a mentor, who was going to help me learn how to tweak golf clubs. And it was also that I was working at Cog Hill, which is right down the street. And they used to have a Western Open. Tigers won it, big names. They haven't had it there for a while, but I'd see the tour vans come to town and I'd see the treatment that those guys got. And I'm like, well, man, I wonder if my clubs were tweaked, if I could be better. So I went down that whole journey and it had turned into a business in 2000. And, during college, I did this business. It was called EJL Custom Golf and got a degree while trying to grow this into whatever it could be. And by 2009, I had 2 stores here and then one up on the North Shore. And one of the coolest things, this is what golf's so cool. It's like we met, but my business changed one day. I only had one day off. We were open Monday through Saturday, so always Sundays off. And that was my golf day. And I would always get invited to play some of the best golf courses in Chicago with my clientele. So I got invited to go play Olympia Fields. What a treat. And I said, the 2 guys were customers of mine, longtime customers of mine. And they go, "Hey, listen, we got a guy who's a scratch golfer, played at Marquette, playing a lot of golf because he just sold a business. And you got to convince him to get golf clubs. His clubs are terrible." So anyway, we get to the first tee. He hits his drive. We're walking down with the caddies. And I turned to him and I go, "Listen, that's a great drive right down the middle, but it's about 20, 30 yards shorter than what you should be." And he looks at me, he goes, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Well, I watch golf balls fly every day." I said, "I can just know when we get back if we go to a launch monitor, if you come see me, we're going to see a ton of spin. Did you see how your ball just kept going?" It's like, okay, kind of he was intrigued. Then we get to the green. That was where I saw the second biggest issue, which he has this forward press Phil Mickelson, and so he's a good player. I just told you that, but he's playing these squirted putts because when he forward presses, there's no loft on the putter. And so he's banging that ball into the green and then kind of squirting, and he plays it, but it's not where he should. So I turned to him, I go, "Hey, listen, man, If you had the right loft on that putter, your ball would actually start on the target you wanted and go, and you wouldn't have to play that. And he's like, wait, putters have loft? And I'm like, yeah, putters have loft. And there's an appropriate amount of loft for your stroke. I go, you're very Phil Mickelson-esque. That would be, that's why he has 7, 8, 9 degrees of loft on his putter. So anyway, we had a great round and we had fun. And afterwards, doing my thing, like I always do, is I got his contact information and bugged him to come in. So we get him in and we fit him and he buys the whole set. And so I followed up with him. I said, how's the clubs work? He's like, this is incredible. He's like, I'm hitting it farther, more consistent, everything. He's like, everything is exactly the way you said it would be. And I just didn't want to believe it. And I can't believe I didn't do this 20 years ago. And he goes, listen, I'm at a nice club. I have the means. Like, there's no reason. There is zero barriers for me to not do this. And yeah, I didn't do it because no one explained the importance of it until you did. And as accurately as you did, and made me want to believe and come in and see it. And so he goes, there must be thousands of people like me. And he goes, what do you think? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm like 26 or 27 then. I go, I'm going to just keep growing it. I love this business. I love golf. This is what I do. I hadn't really thought about it other than, hey, can I make, survive? I didn't really think about 138 stores. That was not in my brain. So anyway, he goes, listen, what if I helped you put a business plan together? And if we like it, we'll raise the money to do it between people I know, your customers, and we'll kind of do it. So we spent all of 2009 pretty much coming up with this plan. And so we named it Club Champion. We raised the money from, like I said, customers of mine, friends of his. And here we are, 2025 and 138 stores domestically and 11 internationally.
What's your take on golfers' brand loyalty versus being loyal to performance? And the reason why I asked the question is that I just feel like we golfers are bombarded by advertising, and everything is big, longer distance, tighter dispersion, more forgiving, and this like hope and dream that they're selling us. So I'd love to hear you talk about that.
And I always joke with our fitters when I meet with them. I'll be meeting with our class this afternoon, but I always say, I go, customers are so used to hearing 10 yards, you can't say 10 yards anymore. Explain what 10 yards is. Oh, that's one less club in the green. That was the premise behind everything we do, which was let's take the marketing out of it. Okay. And so we try to warm up the customer before they come in. Like, listen, if we can have our cake and eat it too, the brand you like, and, make the performance work, great. That's awesome. But I can't guarantee that. Right. And I need that open mind to say, hey, like, you got to decide, do you care about what looks in your bag, or because we can make anything look cool, or do you care in the brand on it, or do you care about how the score is going to end up when you finish 18 holes? And you should care about the score. I mean, you go on the PGA Tour, and I was just out at the Masters, and I was on the tour vans for 2 days. Most of these guys out there, they don't even know what they play. Okay. They don't know their specs. There's plenty that do, but there's a lot of them that don't. You ask them what you have to play. I'm like, I think it's a Fujikura. Like, the point is they don't care. They go to these guys on a van, just like you came to us, and they go, okay, I want to eliminate that miss, or I want to hit this window. And so they don't care how it gets there, as long as when they go to hit that shot, it's there. And that's how the average golfer should be, is like, let's build a bag that makes sense for you, and not who you saw win on Sunday, what the best player at your club plays, what YouTube said. Like, let's use your own kind of judgment on your game, because we all play, we all swing, we're all unique. And so to think you're going to play the same thing as somebody else, exact setup, is rare.
One thing that happened to me when I went into Club Champion in Torrance, California, was I walked in and I saw all of the shafts on the wall, and I got a little just anxious. I was a little overwhelmed with all of the combinations and all of the choices. And once I was in there and kind of got a lay of the land and almost did a tour of sorts, right? I just needed to get a little warmed up. I then went and watched Club Champion videos on YouTube just to see what the fitting process was even like.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to just get warmed up for the process of then making an appointment and getting my fitting. And I remember going through my fitting with Jacob there, the master fitter, and I told him, I don't want to know what you're handing me. And he looked at me. And it was almost like just different than any other customer.
He probably felt relief. Hey, I can actually paint the picture I want to paint.
Exactly. And I told him, because he'd asked me, he's like, well, what brand are you thinking about? And I'm like, TaylorMade, because TaylorMade is everywhere. And I just assumed that because Tiger plays TaylorMade and Rory plays, TaylorMade and Nelly plays TaylorMade, that I should play TaylorMade. And I remember going in there and he'd asked me, he's like, well, what other brands are you loyal to? And I said, well, from a baseball perspective, I was always loyal to Rawlings. There was something about the Americana of Rawlings. There's just something about it. And so my gloves were always Rawlings. And I said, but during this process, knowing how many different combinations you guys have, I want to be brand agnostic. I just want to follow the data, but I need help understanding the data, right? And the other thing I noticed too, when I went in for my fitting, there were so many data points. I had to ask Jacob, like, what data points should me as the average golfer pay attention to today? And maybe there's other data points that I'm paying attention to later on in my journey here, but as a 25 handicap or whatever I was at the time, what should I be paying attention to? And I loved how we took this whole 65,000 number thing and just whittled it down.
Oh yeah.
And then got it tight, and then the explanation, and then I know exactly where we landed. And so I just love that process of not caring what brand it is. And I'll tell you, like, I was being handed shafts that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And I didn't care.
No, you shouldn't care.
And I didn't.
You should only care what the result is. Like that's, and what you did, you're a fitter's dream.
Because I'll tell you, during my fitting, I remember the aha moment, right? I remember I was swinging a lot, I was hitting a lot, and just the data was all being gathered. And I remember going through the process and I was like, well, do we have enough swings yet to actually see some results? And then there was just this, and it was like, there it is.
Yeah.
Like there's the head, there's the shaft.
And that's how most fittings go.
And compared to my gamer, right? Because that's the foundation.
That's usually the moment when people calm down.
You're right.
Yeah.
And when I said, that was my moment of calming down, was like, okay, wow, there's something magical happening here. And I think the biggest thing was just seeing the winning combination versus my gamers.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, like my gamers that I brought in for my irons, they were TaylorMade M6s. I couldn't tell you what shafts they were in them. I couldn't tell you if they were standard length, loft, fly. I had no idea because I was so green to the process. And so to see those P790s and those KBS Tour V stiff shafts perform, I was like, wow, like, okay, yeah, M6s, you just need to go bye-bye now.
I still find it really crazy that people will go to a fitting without their current golf clubs.
Oh,
Like to me, like when you have your existing clubs and we kind of educate you and then we start working through it. And now all of a sudden, like you said, you feel it, you see it. It's that aha moment because you're like, okay, I knew where I was at and now I see where I'm going.
I want to switch gears just a little bit, and I want to talk about the future of fitting. What are your thoughts on AI and doing things remote or virtual reality? Like where's this going?
So I always think I still won't ever believe in remote. That part I'll never get to. But we did build out our own AI technology. And so I've been through that journey myself. I was the golf guy part of it. And then I had a team of data engineers that do it for a living, right? We have a luxury of with 138 stores and 333 fitters, we're taking 1 million swings a month.
Wow,
In our
that's a lot of data.
Yeah, it's a ton of data. When we went down this project, the engineers immediately looked at all that data and they're like, wow, this is great. We normally start off with garbage and then we got to, clean it all up and then kind of get it at least to a starter package. And then we have to build it over time. We're just going to be able to like take this data and go. And so it's been really cool in the sense that what we created was you still have to swing. Because at the end of the day, we talked about all these torques and forces a little bit ago. You're never going to know those without the body swinging it. Okay. I've seen big guys like me swing very soft, light things. I've seen big guys like me swing very heavy, stiff things. So you're never going to hit it on the head. There's always going to be anomalies, but it's a great tool to guide you to at least somewhere to like get past 99% of it and get you to that 1% that matters. And that's the key, but that's when you have to swing it. And so that's kind of what our AI, that's why we call it the co-pilot. It's never going to replace the fitter. I'm now 100% convinced of that after creating this software. But what it can do is make the fitter more efficient and smarter. And it'll back up me. Like if I were a consumer, I always think on a consumer level, because I started as a consumer when I did this, was, okay, I got to trust Nick Sherburne, okay, on this fit. Yeah, kind of. I mean, you see the results on the screen, but I'm also trusting that my fitter did all the right things, right? Now you have a third party, non-human kind of validator saying, okay, we got, should be the kind of world you're in. And now the fitter is who zeroed it in. And to me, that's going to be very valuable going forward. And so that's what I like about AI is we can now narrow down things, whether, I know a bunch of other people do it too, and we do it. And it was more, like I said, let's make fittings more efficient. You know how a fitting goes. There's a lot of swings.
A lot of swings, a lot of data, but that aha moment of seeing that winning combo.
Yeah.
And not only just seeing it in the studio, but actually going out and playing it on the course. And all of a sudden you actually have a ball flight that you'd never had before.
Yeah.
Like that's exciting. Hitting your first green in regulation is exciting. Tapping in for birdie that first time is exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Especially new to the game. What was the technology like in 2009 versus a TrackMan today?
Yeah. Well, a launch monitor was much simpler there. It was more picture-based, like what GC Quad is today, although I'm not trying to down DC Quad. It's just picture-based. And so they wouldn't have as many pictures and things going on, nice cameras in there. But that's what it was doing is you had a golf ball and you'd put lines or dots depending on the unit. And you would measure, launch spin, general speeds, but you wouldn't have like today where you can have 50 different metrics on the screen. You'd have 8. Okay, it's like launch, spin, ball speed, club head speed, distance, or carry distance total, and maybe some kind of side thing. That's it. And that's what you got. When I started, we had maybe 30 shafts, 10 heads, because that's all the industry had. Like aftermarket shafts when I got into this was not really like a thing yet. Like I got in right when the 757 by Fujikura was coming out, or the Vista Pro. Yeah, they were tweaking their clubs all the time for lie, loft, weight, different things, but shaft had not become that thing yet. And so I kind of caught like the perfect storm of growing up in this business of shafts and then launch technology. And being a younger guy, I gravitated towards it and like, hey, how can this make us smarter, faster, better? And, here we are. So the technology has come a million miles. And I still think there's plenty of places for it to go.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And one thing I do want to talk about is the shaft. Like you just said, there's 65,000 different combinations here at Club Champion. How important is the shaft? And the reason why I ask is that I don't feel like as an average just getting started in this game, because I've been playing 3.5 years, there doesn't seem to be a lot of advertising, a lot of conversation about shafts. I feel all the advertising is about the new head that gives you distance and forgiveness and distance and forgiveness. How important is the shaft?
The shaft is important. I know you get online and everybody debates this and stuff, and they call it the engine of the golf club. It's not the engine of the golf club because it's more like the transmission of the golf club. You're the engine of the golf club.
Like that.
The transmission drives the tires, and tires are kind of the club head is the way I like to, if we're going to make an analogy. But to me, if I were to break it into percentage, shaft is about 65 to 70% of the stuff, and the head's the other. And people will go, Nick, why one of the, whatever. I go, listen, head companies are still head companies. Okay. So, listen, these partners are great partners of ours, whether it's Callaway, TaylorMade. So I'm never going to knock them on anything. But what happens is they have to water it down to a larger audience. So like, when they look at shafts, they go, okay, what are we going to have for our person that needs more launch, more spin? And what are we going to need for the person that's faster that needs lower launching, low spinning? And they're just going to kind of put it in 2 to maybe 3 buckets, right? Which is fine, but it's not specific to you. It's specific to a wider, bucket. And so for me, what's important about shafts is it's not always about the price. It's just, does it have the profile that helps you swing the most consistent and the fastest? Like today, we talk about lab putters taking the world by storm. And now every manufacturer is coming out with a 0 torque putter, right? Well, I tell people, I go, listen, everybody's adapted to that and doesn't think twice about it, it seems like, right? Well, if you really think about what 0 torque is, what they're saying is that there's no, they've centered the gravity around the golf club so that there's no torques happening that mean manipulation your body has to do, right? Well, your body will manipulate to shafts. A shaft is what's going to really help you stay consistent. It's going to help you get speed. A lot of people think of it as launch and spin. I'll be honest with you, that's my least worry about a golf shaft. I'm more worried about, do you have the most ball speed? Based on your club head speed, are you getting as much ball speed as you should get out of your swing? And are you as consistent as you should be?
Does that change as you get older in terms of the shafts and just following
That's what
age?
happens. So one of the best examples of it for some gearheads, and some average golfers will know this, is like AutoFlex became real big like 3 or 4 years ago. We never carried it in our stores because, listen, there is no such thing as hidden Korean technology. Carbon fiber is carbon fiber, and we're not the Terminator, so it doesn't change. And so, but it was a great marketing product. And so that's why I bring it up. So what it did was, it was basically a 50-gram shaft that was, if you were to cycle it, came in somewhere between a senior and a regular. Okay. And they told you that, though, that it had no real flex or it had no real weight. And the idea was, is if you swung it faster, it was still stable. What do you went to Florida and you saw a million older gentlemen playing AutoFlex, paying $850 for that shaft. That's why I called it EgoFlex, because I said what it did is it got those guys in their 50s or 60s away from their 60-gram stiff shaft that we've told them they shouldn't be playing, but they, ego got in the way, which I get it. And now they were pumping it. Well, you're pumping it because you're actually playing the right weight and flex. So when people would call me, I go, listen, I'm going to save you a bunch of money. You come in here. I'll show you how to get optimal without spending $850. And I could have easily said, let's sell a bunch of $850 shafts. But at the same time, yeah, we're expensive, but we're truthful, and we're going to sell you what you need to play better golf. You may not always like the price, but that's what we're going to do.
I get you. I get you. Is it the misconception that somebody's not good enough or it's too early in their golf journey to go get fitted?
You should 100%. I don't care if you're a beginner golfer or a tour player, get fit for golf clubs. And what I mean by that is a good fitter will interview you. Most people, when they say, hey, I'm just getting into the game or I've only played for a couple of years. Okay, we're not looking at Maybachs. Okay. We're going to try to stay to a lesser world where let's get something that's the right length, the right weight, the right flex, the right lie, right forgiveness level. Maybe it's not 14 clubs because you don't need them all. Maybe it's 10 or whatever it is. And let's just get a bag that you can go take some lessons with that aren't impeding what you're trying to do, that you can instantly enjoy the game more tomorrow. And then in a year or two, let's revisit it and go to the next step.
I really like that approach of let's get you something that's made for you so you can actually go practice and start seeing some improvement. Because so many people that join this journey and join the golf space, they typically go and just buy something used, and then they go and they try to even just get the ball in the air with a 7-iron and they just can't do it. And it's like, well, yeah, you're playing with clubs from 1970 that you're never going to hit because they're blades, right?
You want to know something? This is my opinion, and I know I'm just going to say it, even though some pros aren't going to like it. But the best coaches in the world, the first thing they do when they give a lesson to you is go check the equipment. That being said, you better have equipment that can make those lessons possible.
Sure.
People take for granted what these golf clubs can do to your swing and how much it can change the way you swing a golf club.
Speaking of components of a golf club, you've got the head, you've got the shaft, you've got the grips. Can you talk a little bit about jumbo grips?
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen so much content online around jumbo grips. I think Bryson plays them.
Yeah.
And I've had other people swear that it makes their elbows not hurt as much. Like, what's the deal with jumbo grips?
So the idea is with the bigger grips is that it kind of fits in right on the top of whatever bone this is in your hand. Okay.
Yeah.
And the idea is when you get it in there, it kind of locks everything in. Because of that, this force, you're kind of a pendulum kind of back. Normally you have to play a little stronger grip, which can allow you to get a little bit more speed. Okay. I can tell you my personal story with it. The founder came here and he had, all the different ones, and he was trying to convince me about this because he started to work me through it. And my club head speed went up all the way. I gained 7 miles per hour club head speed with it.
Wow.
And so I still play them to this day.
Oh, you do?
And they are different, but I've now, over the years, fit with them, see that results in certain people. And again, you can buy into their whole kinesiology. They're probably not wrong. It's just some people, you put that in their hand and all of a sudden they feel like they can swing it.
See, that's really interesting because as a former baseball player, one thing I loved about my wood bats was I loved a ton of pine tar. I wore double batting gloves, and sometimes I would wrap it in tape too. I liked having
a little bit more.
My current grips are all mid-size, but I'm definitely thinking about the jumbo.
Yeah, it's something you kind of walk into and you test because there's no perfect answer. Actually, I think that their online fitting tool works pretty good. It'll at least zero you into because they have 12 options of size.
Okay.
So they have 6 options of size, and then they have weights. So they have a heavy one and a light one, because you got to remember, as grips get bigger, they get heavier. And so weight is very important to the fit.
Are you ever worried about your swing weight changing so dramatically?
Correct. But that's what's so great about these grips. They have one that no matter the size, they all weigh what a standard grip weighs. So it will not affect your swing weight.
Got it.
And then there's the heavier model that will. And some people do better when it's counterbalanced is basically what it does. I did the lightweight one. So the lightweight one in the large was best for me. The extra large is what Bryson plays is like ridiculous. But again, I've had people, I always tell people walk into it. So like we'll put them on these. If you hate them, come back. We'll make it right and do something different because it is different. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely a real thing that can help certain golfers.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. What are golfers' biggest mistakes after getting fitted?
Well, the first one is overreacting to the first couple bad shots.
Well, are they just looking for somebody to blame?
Yeah, apparently. I love it. It doesn't happen often when it comes. They're like, these clubs suck. I go, how many times have you hit them? Well, I only went to the range once. I'm like, you probably got to relax. It's learning the equipment. It's like, listen, I'm going to give it to you. And yes, if you did nothing that was a vacuum, you're going to play better. But you still have to learn how to hit them, and you have to learn how to hit all the shots. So don't just expect to get fit and instantly be better. Like, you can buy a game, but you can't buy a game, is my point.
I like that a lot. I think the other thing too is that as you go through the fitting process and you find your winning combination, you know how well you can perform because those shots exist. You've done them. You've actually shot those shots. You've seen the numbers and you're like, okay, you know what? My 7-iron can go 160. And I think the other thing too is that standing over the club, knowing you've got the right thing in your hand, the right tool in your hand, you gain confidence and you know you have the ability to do it, but you still have to execute. I remember watching a documentary on Bo Jackson. And I remember seeing how he was really into archery and the conversation of golf came up during this documentary. And Bo seems to be, and I don't know Bo, but Bo seems to be private. And I was really surprised to actually see him do a documentary to share some of his story. And I remember he opened his refrigerator to see what he eats. And like, it was actually a really nice way to get to know Bo. I understand you know Bo.
Yeah, Bo's been a good friend of mine for 25 years. And actually, I'll tell the story in a minute of how we got to be friends, but he was in my office yesterday. So we talk all the time. We share common interests in golf and archery. In fact, what he was dropping off yesterday, I had a set of clubs that I had just finished working on for him. And he had my 6-year-old's compound bow he was working on for me. And Bo's a very, like you said, private guy. Like if you asked Bo, why were you such a great runner in football? He goes, well, the way I looked at it is I had 9 brothers and sisters. I would get chased a lot. And he goes, so what I would see is my brothers and sisters over there, and I would just run like I used to run when I was a kid. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I had no other plan than that.
It's really interesting because I'll tell you, like, I grew up, let's just call it in the 80s and the 90s, and Bo Jackson was the athlete. And I'll tell you, I think Bo Jackson is the greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah.
When you look at like a Michael Jordan and basketball, sure, right? But Bo was outstanding.
Yes.
Outstanding baseball player, outstanding football player. And I was so sad when I saw him hurt his hip at that Raider game because I grew up in LA and he was a Raider. And I remember I was nearly in tears when I saw him limping off the football field because I thought, man, this is the last time I get to watch him. And I'll tell you, one of the things I love doing though is I love watching Bo on YouTube. Because his throws, his runs, his catches, and by the way, I think this is true and I'm not 100%, so don't check me on this, but I remember his first at bat in the major leagues was a ground ball to second base and he beat it out.
He still has his athletic side and there's some fun stories, but here's how it works. So we start this business, right? And this is before we started the store here in 2000. So I was the only one at the garage that day. And this guy comes in and he goes, I go, what can I help you with? And he goes, I want 7.0 rifles, which at the time was the stiffest thing. They're poles, rebar. I kind of look at him and I said, sir, are you sure you don't want me to take a look at anything? Those are pretty stiff shafts, pretty heavy, blah, blah, blah. He goes, son, feel my forearm. I thought that was weird. So felt his forearm. I'm like, okay. And he's like,
felt like your thigh.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm like, so that's what you want, I guess. Okay. So I write down the order and he gives me his name, Vincent Jackson. He leaves and my mentor comes back and he goes, you know who that was? I said, no, I don't know. He just wants 7.0 rifles and they're poles. And he goes, that's Bo Jackson. I'm like, oh, wow. So then he came back in and I go, Bo, man, I didn't even know it was you. He's like, no, I like the fact that you didn't know who I was. And then he goes, hey, you want to go play golf at Twilight at Cog? I'm like, yeah.
Did you critique his swing?
No. I mean, listen, he's an Alabama hillbilly at heart, and I'm an Illinois hillbilly. So like we have this like general, we don't have to talk but understand each other kind of thing. One night we went and we get to like the 8th hole at Dubs, and guess who's there? He goes, oh crap. And I go, what? He goes, we're gonna catch up with Ernie Banks. I'm like, to me, I'm like, this is cool. Like I know Ernie Banks is.
Mr. Cub,
Yeah, I'm like Mr. Cub. And I'm like, but he's like, well, I just want to get done. And Ernie's going to want to talk. And I'm not really in the mood to talk today. And, but he's like, that's fine. We'll join up. So I got to play the back nine with Ernie and Bo, which I'll never forget, which was awesome.
I bet. I'm finding that a lot of former athletes are obviously picking up golf, and it's just good for them, probably mentally and physically. So Nick, thank you so much for doing this with me. This has been Between Two Bags with Nick Sherburne from Club Champion. And Nick, I have an idea. I haven't been fitted for irons in about 2.5 years. I think I'm due. You want to go do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go.